Hello everyone, welcome to our third video in our next.js tutorial series. So today we'll be looking at 3 points. So the first thing we'll be looking at today is link component from next.js. Then we'll look how we can create nested route pages. And then the third thing we'll be looking today is how we can dynamically generate routes. Okay, so let me make it like this. Okay, so let's start with the link component. So we'll start where we left on our second video. So we already have this page where we have this about link, and when we'll click on the about, it should go to the home page, the about page, and then after clicking on the home page it should come back to the home page. So the one problem it had is on every click it was reloading the whole website. So as you can see, if I click on the home page, it will reload the websites. So today we'll be looking at how we can remove this. Okay, so I have come into my Visual Code Studio. So here you can see we have our link for about page, and then in about.js we have it for home page. So here we will just start by importing one component. So we'll do import link from next link. So this link component also comes with our next library, so that's why I'm doing next/link. So this will basically give the link component, and then what we can do is we can just add the link component here. So unlike browser DOM router for React, this link component requires you to have an anchor tag inside that, otherwise the cursor will not come. So here we can just pass href instead of passing it here. Okay, let me just copy paste it from here. Instead of passing it here, we will just pass it on the link component, and at the build time it will just forward this href to the anchor tag. So okay, let's save it and let's have a look. So it's compiling. We'll wait for a few seconds. Okay, I don't know why it's taking so long. Okay, so it has compiled now. Let's come back. Now when we click, it should navigate. So as you can see, on click on the about link, it didn't reload the whole page. So we haven't done it for home, so when we'll click on home it should reload, and when we'll click on the about page it should not. Yeah, okay, so let's make the change in the about page as well. So instead of saying anchor tag, okay, we need anchor tag as well. Let's first import the link component here as well. So we'll say link from next/link. Okay, here we can just give link, and we'll copy this href to here. Okay, now it should also work as expected. Let's see. So it should not reload the page now. Okay, as you can see, the page is not basically getting reloaded every time we click a link. Now the next.js is basically taking care of the routing for us. Okay, now that we have done this part, we'll just click off from our list, and now we'll see the nested route pages. So what I mean by nested route pages is, suppose if you want to have a link, so right now what we have is when we click on the about link, it shows /about. So what if we want to have /about/carrier page? So this is a nested route, right? So I'm talking about this only. So what we can do is, in next, what happens is, in whatever you will put inside the page folder, it will be treated as a standalone page. So it's not important that it should be .js file only. You can just go ahead and you can create a folder, and this folder will be treated as a route. So what we can do is we can just drag and drop our about page inside the about folder. So one thing to notice here is this will create a link like this. /about. So this about is because of this folder that we have created, and inside that we have about.js, right? So for this about.js file also we'll create one nested route that will be about. So on if we go to about, then only this page will be loaded. So let's check what happens now. So as you can see, we are on /about and it shows 404. This means this route is not found. So when we'll put one more about here, that about page will come. So as you can see, this about page is coming basically on /about. So in order to fix that, what we can do is we can just rename this about to index.js. So when we create a named folder, inside that it will search for index.js. So when you will pass the index.js on the route of this folder, it will serve the index.js. So if we come back now, you can see that about is invalid link. Now it says 404 because we have renamed it to index.js. So now if we go to /about only, it should work. So this will basically load our about page. So as you can see, the about page is getting loaded. So now the routing should work as expected. Yeah. So now since we have this folder, now we can go ahead and we can create our carrier page inside this about folder. So this will return our carrier route. So we can just copy paste the same thing here, and we can say this is carrier page, and we can give both links, one for home and one for going to our about page. So we'll say /about, and then here we can just say about, and we can just remove this comment, we don't need it. And let's see what, okay, here also we have this. Okay, so in about also we'll add one link to go to the carrier page. So here we'll say /carrier about /carrier. So as you can see here, we are in the same folder, we have to give the absolute path. So how we can do the relative part, we will look into the later video when we will be building our project. So this is what happens in tutorial. Most people only show you how we can do a certain thing, and when we move to a real problems, it will be very different. Then you will have to go and create a question in Stack Overflow. So we will cover all those things here when we will start creating. Once we have the basic understanding of how next.js works, then we will move on to building a website with next.js, where we'll explore all these real scenarios. Okay, I forgot to rename this. Let's make sure in the carrier page also I have. Okay, this looks good. It should now come. Yeah, so in the about we have our carrier and home link, and if I click on the carrier, it will take me to the, so you can see that, you can notice that there is a delay when I click on the links. So what actually happens is, so here you can see this event that is build page. So whenever I click on a new link, it basically this event gets triggered, this build page. So next will basically look in this .next folder to see if that page that I'm actually requesting for is already rendered or not. So if it is not built, what next will do, it will trigger this event build page, and it will try to build the page that I am requesting for. So once that is built, on second request it will automatically load it from the cache only. And if we make any changes to this page, it will basically do a hot reload, hot swap, meaning it will just change the content, whatever content we have changed. So it should be fast the second time onwards. So here if we go to the home page, and now if I click on carrier page again, okay, okay, let's see, it reloaded. We'll look into this. So as you can see, I clicked and it suddenly loaded, right? So second time onwards it will be fast. So let's go back and see. Okay, yeah, so this is fixed. Okay, so time to time it triggers this build page. If you're not accessing a page for a long time, it will try to rebuild the page. Okay, so now that we have seen like how we can create a nested route, we'll just tick mark this one as well. And so suppose you want to create a multi-level routing, like slash about slash career slash life, let's say life at your company ABC. So what you can do is, instead of creating this career.js file, you can create a folder named career, and inside that you can create life at abc.js file. So this way you can create multi-layer routing in next.js. Okay, so this thing we have covered. Now let's see our third topic, which is basically creating dynamically generating routes. So of course, suppose if you are building a blog website, and you will frequently be adding blogs, right? So you don't want to give manually define every route for all your blogs, right? So you need a mechanism through which it will basically automatically generate all the routes that you need. So what we can do is, in Next.js it's pretty simple. So let me close all this, and what we'll do is, in the about only we will show we'll remove this section. Instead of showing these blocks, we will show a list of links which will be dynamically generated, and on clicking of those links we'll show data relevant to that particular link. Okay, so let's see. So here only we have our code. So let's start by removing this grid. So here we can see, I think this is the div only, so we'll just remove this, and here we'll add a div, and then ul and li, and say list link 1. Okay, so here you can see this link 1 is coming up. So now let's go and let's try to so we need this list to be dynamic as well, right? So suppose we are writing blog, and we have created one API which returns all the blog that we have written. So we need to basically list all the blogs here. So what we can do is, next provides a method that we can export from this component. So we have this our home component, right, which is in the index.js file. From this file only we can basically export one more function, which will be a async function basically. So we'll say export getStaticProps. So this will be async function. Since we may need to call an API to get all the list, so that's why this function is async as well. So what happens is, this React basically looks for this export for each of your pages, each of the component that you have created inside the page folder. And once it will find this page, this function, at the build time it will call the function, and basically inside this function you will write some business logic on getting this data, this list, basically list of your blogs from somewhere, maybe inside this file, inside a file you are storing it, or maybe you have created a API from which you are getting all the blogs. So you will basically call your API to get your list of blogs, right? And once you have received the blogs, you can just return that blog. So basically at build time, next will invoke this method, and whatever it will return, in this case we are returning blog, it will send it as a props in this component, and then we can basically loop through and we can list out all the blogs that we have. So for now let's use some open source API. So Northwind, I'll search for Northwind API, which is basically an OData API. Okay, here. So what I did is I added this add-on in my Firefox browser, which is basically a JSON formatter, and after that I just pass this parameter $format is equal to JSON, which tells our OData service that I need the data in JSON format. So now basically this OData is returning data in JSON format, and this add-on that I have downloaded is basically formatting in a viewable format or readable format. So this is this API, we will use this API. So inside that we have a list of products. So what we'll do is in our website we will basically list out all the product names here, and then we'll try to navigate between them. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come down here. So here you can see so here we as you can see that we have to make a API call. So in order to call an API we need a library called Axios, through which we will basically call the API to get the data. So I'll just show you how you can download and get it up and running. So that's why I use DuckDuckGo. As you can see, it already gives me the installation recommendation here. So you just have to do npm install Axios, and it will basically install in your project dependency. So I'll just add one more terminal, and since I'm using yarn as my package manager, I'll just do yarn install Axios. Okay, sorry, in yarn we have to write add, not install. Okay, let's come back here, and then we can just import the Axios. And let's see if it is downloaded or not. Okay, it's downloaded, so I'll just clear this screen. Let's go back to this terminal. Now here we can just do a constant product. So products will be the variable where we'll be basically storing the response from the API, and here we can use await. Since this is a async method, we can use await, and we are using await because Axios returns in promise as well. So we'll just do let me see, there are many ways to do that. So I'll just do axios.get because we are making a get call, and then I think this will be a parameter base. So here we'll be passing the URL of our API, which will be this. So since here only we are passing the format JSON, we don't have to add any header like accept JSON or not, because we are already saying it to send us the JSON only. So we'll have this product, and what we'll do is we will console log this. So there's no way to debug right now. So what we can do is just console log the products, and it should log it here only, so we'll be able to see. Okay, now we just need to go to our index.page and we have to refresh it. So upon refresh, it will try to load our index.page, and it then next we'll see that we have this getStaticProps, and it will trigger this function. So let's do that. Okay, so here you can see we are getting our data, which is status. Okay, so these things are basically added by our Axios saying that status was successful, and then we have this header, and then we will have the data field somewhere as well. I think here only we have this data field. So what we'll do is we'll just remove this, and let's see what is our okay. So inside in the OData, what we have is we have an object. Inside that object we have this value field, and inside that value field we have this array of our products. So we have to return the blocks, right? So before returning, we'll have to add this props, excuse me, not this, like this, and inside that we'll have to pass whatever we want to send. So in this case we want to pass products dot value. So this is what we okay, not value, products dot data, because Axios returns this header and status also. So the actual data of our API will be inside data, and then inside data we have our value, which we can see from the API. So we have to return. Okay, why I have done like this is, so this will basically tell our next.js is that this is the props that we want to send to our component, which is here, and inside the prop we want to send this value, and the key for this value will be basically products. So we can come here and we can do like this, products. So now this products will be filled from this API. And so the reason we pass it like props, because we also have a few other configurations that we can pass. So those configurations will be for this method getStaticProps. This we will check out later. As of now, let's just try focus on printing the data here, right? Okay, so now we have our product list here. So what we'll do is we'll just put a equal to and array. In case our API calls fails or there's no data, it will assign it to an empty array. So this is why we are doing this is because when we'll use the map method on the product and the product is basically undefined or null, it will not loop through, so it will throw an error at the build time only. So to prevent that, we have done that. So here only we'll just write the expression product.map. I will pass the product since our original variable name is products, and then we'll say return. Okay, when we are writing return, then okay, we are using this parenthesis, so we don't have to write return. We can just say li, and here we can just say product.name. And let me remove this link because we don't need it anymore, and let's wait for compilation. Okay, now we can see. Oh, okay, fair enough. So we forgot to write the return statement here, so that's why we are getting this error. Okay, now it is compiled, and we have a warning. So this warning is basically coming from React. So whenever we'll loop through whenever we'll create basically HTML element or React component by looping through an array, we'll have to pass a key to that so that it identifies if a state change is happening. It will identify through the key for which component it has changed, and it will only re-render that particular component. So this is a feature of React only. So what we'll do is we'll go to the API list and we'll see we have one ID. Okay, here we can see that we have a product ID, right? So we'll just pass the product ID as our key. So we'll do product ID, and let's look for the name also. So this is product name, and we have put only name, so this will anyways fail. So we'll save, we'll make this change also and save. Let's see. So now it is compiled successfully, and we'll go to the page. So, okay, it is refreshing already. Now we can see that we have the list of products here, and this is all coming dynamically. But we are not done here, because we need to make it a link and it should navigate to the particular page of that product, right? So that's what we need here. That's what we mean by dynamically generated routes. So this is just a React feature that we have done as of now. So what we'll do is, the first purpose is to make it a link, right? So what we'll do is we'll just go back to our JSON response, and we will see that can we make anything a link here. We can treat it as a link. So we will use product ID only. So what will happen is, if someone will go from root to product ID, let's say 1, so it should load this particular product, the description of this particular product. Okay, so okay, let's try to make it a link first. So here as you can see, we are returning the list component. right? List element. So inside list, what we'll do is we'll wrap our product name inside an anchor, not anchor, basically we'll be using link. Okay, so we still need anchor tag of course, but it should be inside this link component so that it doesn't reload every time we go somewhere. So here we want to pass the value dynamically, so we'll do expression binding, and here we'll just pass the product ID, because since we are already making changes in the index.js, so it's a root only, so we don't need to append anything like about or any other link. So now we'll wrap the product name inside our anchor tag like this. So it should be link now. Let's wait for, okay, this is compiled. Okay, we have an error. Let's see. Okay, I think okay, so it is saying basically it only accept a string or an object, but what we are passing is a number, so that's why it is failing. So here we can see this is a number only, so we'll have to convert it into a string. So I think this should work. Let's see. So as you can see, now it is link. So the color is not coming of course, but in the bottom left you can see that if I'm hovering over it, shows the different links, right? So we'll do one thing, let's change the color also. So here we can see the color is getting inherit, so we'll say blue. So this is a global CSS, so it will change everywhere. So okay, now the link is blue. Okay, so what will happen if we click on the link? Nothing, it will show 404 because the page is not created. We are just creating the links, the content dynamically, right? But the page is not created. So in order to create a page for this, first we need a detail page, right? So we need a template where the description will be loaded. So what we'll do is inside this page, since we have our index.js inside this page folder only, so inside that we'll create a new file, we'll call it id.js. so remember, you can see the annotation I'm using for the name. So we are using 2 square brackets, and inside that we are passing id. Instead of id you can pass anything like slug also. So I'll tell you what you need to change if you change some. Okay, we'll go ahead with the slug and we'll show you. So this will be our detail page. So what we'll do is we'll just show the product name. So we'll just go to the about and we'll just copy the component to save the time. So we'll say product detail page. Okay, so this will be our product detail page, and here this is, and here we can say our product name, right? And then we can give a button to go back to the home page, which we already have it here, right? So this will be a product name. Okay, so now how do we so there are 2 points actually here now. So the first one is, how do we get the data of a particular product that user has clicked, meaning user can click any of this link, right? So we need to know which link user has clicked, and based on that we need to show the title here, basically show the name here. So one way to know is, if we already so this is not a React application, so nothing here is happening dynamically, right? So in Next, everything will be built at the runtime only, at the build time only, not runtime but the build time only. Everything will be generated. So even if we are creating a link, so the page for this link is already generated, so we don't need the context. Basically what we need is we'll be creating page for every link that we have provided here. So one way to do this is, suppose let me show you. So let's take example for the first one, which is chai, right? So for chai we have the link. If you can look at the bottom left here only, for chai we have /1. /1 is our link. So one way to do is, you can just inside the page you can go 1.js. so this 1.js will be link for this chai only. So let's try it out. So just copy paste the thing. We don't need to change the name here because this is default. So anyway, it will we don't need to provide a specific name. So here we'll just write chai. Now let's wait for, okay, it is compiled. So now when I'll click on the chai, it will show me the chai page. It will be slow because it will build the chai first, the chai page. Okay, now you can see this is chai, right? So one way is to create basically the index.js file for every link that we are providing here. But this link is coming dynamically, right? This link is coming from this OData API. So tomorrow someone can come and they can add 10 more products. So we need to then we'll have to sit and we'll have to create 10 more pages for this 10 extra links, right? So that's why we need to generate these pages dynamically. That's where this annotation comes in. This is square annotation. So let me go ahead and delete this 1.js that we have created. Okay, so we already know that we cannot create every page for all the list, right? So next.js basically provides another method. So in our index.js we used a method called getStaticProps that we are exporting basically, which next.js calls whenever it will try to render this next index page. So similar to getStaticProps, next also provide one more method called getStaticPaths. So that is when we can create pages dynamically. So I'll show you how. So just like getStaticProps, this method will also get exported. So we don't need to write default because the name has to match. So we'll do export function and then we'll say get static paths. So double check that this name is correct, right? Because next has this naming convention and it will explicitly look for this method only. So we don't take any parameter in here. So what we can do is we can just write the code to get all the list of products. For those we have to create the page, that is the path. So we'll just say constant products and then we'll call the API. So I'll just copy paste it from here. So yeah, this same thing we need. So here also we'll call we'll fetch all the blocks. So one thing to note here is you can make as many API calls as you want because all the calls will be done at the build time only. So there's no latency or there's no delay in the runtime because the pages are already created. Okay. So okay, now we have fetched all the products here in this variable. Now what we'll do is this static path basically requires data in a specific format. So while returning the data, we need to return in this format. So we'll have a paths and then your data, and this data will be array. So here we'll be returning the array of all the paths that we want to create, and this data inside this array also has a format, which is so first you will have to pass in the params. So I'll get back to you about the params here. So params is basically whatever name you are passing in the square bracket, that will be your parameter. So inside that we'll say slug because the name of the file is slug only. So if it was an ID, then we should write ID here. Okay, and then the string, this string will be the path that you want to create, that is 1. So or /1. Okay, so this will be the path that you want to create. So we generally don't write /path. So suppose if you have this file inside your about page or any other folder, then you can write about / and then the path that you want. but in our case we just have to pass the IDs of the product. So we must return the data in this format, and apart from that we will also have to return a required field, that is fallback, and it is a boolean, so it requires false or true. So this fallback is basically, suppose if the page is not created yet, what should we show it to the user. So this also you will control only, but this fallback we'll see how we can use it. Okay, so let's try to map our product list into this format. So we'll create a constant saying paths, and then we'll loop through all the products. So inside product we have data, and inside data we have values as per our JSON, and then we'll just map it to, and here we will just return it an object. So here we have to return this object because it will create an array of this object, right? So we'll just copy paste this. Now okay, we have extra curly braces, so we'll just remove this. Okay, now we have this inside object. What we need to do here is, everything is right, just this string needs to be a dynamic one, right? So here we can just do like this, product ID. So this will be our way, here we will be returning the product ID. One thing to notice here is this product ID is a number, and the path we should return always in string format. So we just do string, and it will return it in as in string. Now this part is done. So basically this piece of code will create this array with this format inside, this object inside it. So this much part is done. So this will be stored in the paths. So now what we can do is, we can just write here return statement, and in return, instead of passing this array, we'll just pass the paths that we have created, and then in fallback we'll just put it as false for now, and if this works, then we'll look into it. We can pass it as true, and then we can create our custom loading option or 404. Okay, so this much is created. Now what you can do alternatively, if your variable name is already paths, so you don't have to write it like this, you can just pass the paths here and it should work. Okay, now that we have created our page dynamically, what we need to do is, we need to fetch the data for a single product. So if user clicks on the chai, we need to show the details of this particular product that user has clicked, right? So how will we do that? So first, when user will click the URL, in the URL will have the product ID, right? But since this is a static site, that page is already generated, right? So how do we show the data? Okay, let's look into our next.js, how we are showing data here. So we are using the getStaticProps. We are getting all the products, we are looping through we are returning the products as the parameter in the props, and then we are looping through all the products to show data. So we need a way to dynamically pass the context here of every page, and we need to generate data here for every page like this, right? So what we can do is, we can use the same method, getStaticProps, and a little bit change from what we have done in the index.js, getStaticProps. So this getStaticProps basically takes a parameter. It also takes a parameter. So if you look at in the index.js, we are not giving any parameter because we are not using the getStaticPath here, right? So whenever you will use a getStaticPath method, you will have to pass a parameter here, the getStaticProps. So let's go through how next.js works in case of providing these two methods in our export. So it will first look for the component, right? Then it will see what else method I have exported from this page. So it will find getStaticProps and then getStaticPaths as well. So it will first call this method getStaticPath. So by calling this method, it will get the array of whatever paths we need to create, and for every path, that is for every this object, it will call the getStaticProps. So this is how it will fetch all the data for a specific product, and then this getStaticProps will return the product data in the props of our React component, where we can just show that particular product's name, right? So what we do is here we will just okay, so here we are getting this object, right? So that's why I have given the object annotation. So inside that we'll just write params. So now we have the params. So what we do, we'll just call for a single product. We'll call API for a single product. Now here you can see that the API call is if it was in a production environment or in a React application, it would take a lot of time, because for every list, suppose if there are 1000 products, this API will get called 1000 times, right? But we don't have to worry in next.js, because this will get called only at the build time. So we'll just remove the double quotes, because the URL we need to generate dynamically. So we'll just use the backtick, and here in the products, the way we fetch single data in OData service is just to pass the product's ID inside the parenthesis, and it will fetch the. So what we'll do is we'll say parenthesis, and here we need to pass our ID. So we'll say we'll say this, and then we'll say params dot slug, because in the params we have this slug, right? Okay, so this should fetch the product only. Let me remove this comment. So now we have our single product, so we can just pass it, we can just return it to our component, saying that in props return our product, right? Product, and that's it. So now we have our product here, and we are just printing out the product name. So let's save and see if it works or not. Okay, here we can see we are getting an error that await cannot be used, because our methods are not asynchronous. So we can just make it async, and this error should go away. So here you can see that it is compiled successfully. Now let's go ahead and check. So here we don't see any changes, so I'll just refresh just to it is connected to the right server. Yeah, so now we'll try to click on any of the link. So let's try here. So now let's check here that if the build event is triggered or not. Okay, maybe it is not clicked. Okay, we can see that we have a issue here. It says that the property map of undefined. This means map we have used it here only. So instead of, okay, we have written values, right? So it should be value only. Let's try again. We can just quickly check that in our service also. Let's remove this particular ID, and this should return the array. Okay, yeah, here it is value only. So we had written values. That's why it was failing. So this response is getting print, that is 400 bad request. Okay, let's check it out. So okay, so I think we have missed yeah, here you can see we have missed the parenthesis, the closing parenthesis. That's why it is printing out the error which is coming from the API. So just save that as well. Now it is compiled successfully. Now let's go back and see. Okay, let's wait for the reload. Okay, so we are getting one more error. It is saying let's read here only. Error serialization, the product config transformation 0 return from getStatic in the slug. The function cannot serialize as JSON. Okay, so it is saying that we are not returning JSON. So let's look at the code here. I think this is from getStaticProps only. So here, okay, here we can see that we are returning the product, but we should return product.data, because okay, so here it will throw error because we are returning only the variable. So if the variable name is not matching, so we cannot put that. So we'll have to do it like this. So product is equal to product.data. Now it should work. Let's go back and check it out. So it is compiled. Let's wait for the refresh. So whenever an error will come, it will try to refresh the page after these changes. So yeah, okay, now we can see that the page we had clicked, this is getting loaded, right? So let's try another one. Just go to home, and then we can click on here Uncle Bob's page, and we'll just wait because it will try to build first. Okay, now you can see that this page is getting loaded. So as you can see that we are not creating every page in the product, but we are just creating everything dynamically with getStaticPaths and getStaticProps. So these are two very important and very strong methods and techniques that next.js provides. So you should have a good command on this. So you should always remember that getStaticPath will get called first if both methods are present. So when this method will get called, it will return all the array of the paths that you want to create, and the format should be the same. It should have a parameter format, and the parameter inside parameter, the id should be similar to what you have given in the file name. And once you have, and the value should always be string. The value of the path should always be string only. So once you are passing this array with the array, you should write the path. So suppose my variable name here, if I change it to something else, like say pages, so here I'll have to do it like this. Okay, so this also you make sure that you're passing the correct property here. And then this fallback is also important, so it is a required field. So if you don't want to use fallback, you can just pass it false, but you have to pass it. So what happens if you pass it true? So if we do it like this, true, now next.js will try to tell you in the component that the fallback is true. This means if the page is getting loaded, or it's not found, or some error has occurred in creating the this page at the build time, you can just show some other thing like loading page or 404 page. So fallback is for that. So how will you know that the fallback is enabled or not here? So what you can do, if you know that here, if you can know if fallback is enabled, if fallback is true, then you can just show the you can just return here the your loader, basically loader. So I don't have a loader, so I'll just return something else. Let's say let's create a h1 and we'll say loading. So we need our fallback, basically whatever we are passing here, fallback parameter, we need it somehow we need it in this component. So we cannot directly have it in our props, because whatever we are passing here, the path will basically go in the getStaticProps. So the, whatever we are returning from getStaticPath is not coming in the our component. It will come to the getStaticProps. So we need a way to get our fallback in this component. So next.js basically provides a hook which is a use router. So we can just import it like this. We'll say from next/router. So this next/router is already present with the next package, so we'll just have to import it like this. And inside the curly braces, we'll say that we want to use router hook. So here once we have imported our router hook, we can just say constant router is equal to use router. Now in the router we'll have this parameter router dot is fallback. As you can see in the suggestions also, we are getting this is fallback. So what happens behind the scene is when we are returning this fallback in from the getStaticPath, next.js looks for this parameter and it assigns to the router. So this is fallback will basically have whatever you are passing here. So in case if you are passing true, it will have the true. So once so if it is true and the page is not created yet, so this loading page will be shown, otherwise this page will be shown. So at the build time, so what will happen if the API call or some other things gets failed and you are using the product whatever you are passing, so in that case it will come as null, right? So when you will try to do you are basically doing null.product name, which will throw an error and your build will start failing. And even in the production it might fail if you have changed the API somehow. So I'll show you like how this, if we change the API, how it can affect our static build website also. So there will be of course cases where you want to add new pages, right, in your blog or in your product, and you want it to reflect in your website. So since it is not dynamic, right, we are statically generating all the files. So how we will do that? So usually what happens is, if you create a new product or a blog, you will just rebuild your website in the production. So that will fetch all the latest product in the API call from the getStaticProps or getStaticPath. But Next provides a cool way to hack that. So it is still in beta, but it works. So I'll show you that in the next video. For now, we have our is fallback mechanism in place. So while refresh, we will not be able to see the loader. Let's see. Maybe in development we might see it, but let's try. Let's go to tofu. Yeah, so we will not be able to see that because all the links are successfully created. But in case if it fails, the link creation or the data fetch, if this product comes as null, this page basically this component will be shown to the user until we try to fetch or not. So one thing you should make sure that wherever you want to use this product, so you might have some business logic that you want to write here, right, where you want to use this product in order to calculate something or to set any state. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a React application, right? So you can just use all the hooks provided by React as well, like use effect and use state. So if you want to use this product anywhere, make sure that you're using after this condition, otherwise next.js itself will throw an error. Okay, so this is all for this video. All the codes I'll post it in the GitHub, you will find in the inside the chapter 1. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.